Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Vishwatitam Gaganasadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam Vande Guru-paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् ॐ श्रीकृष्ण परमात्मने नमः अथ श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता अष्टादशोऽध्यायः मोक्षसन्न्यासयोगः श्रीभगवानुवाच यतः प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां येन सर्वमिदं ततं स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च्य सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मोत्स्वनुष्ठितात् स्वभावनियतं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम् सहजं कर्म कौन्तेय सदोषमपि न त्यजेत् सर्वारम्भा हि दोषेण धूमेनाग्निरिवावृताः असक्तबुद्धिः सर्वत्र जितात्मा विगतस्पृहः नैष्कर्म्यसिद्धिं परमां सन्न्यासेनाधिगच्छति सिद्धिं प्राप्तो यथा ब्रह्मा तथाप्नोति निबोध मे समासेनैव कौन्तेय निष्ठा ज्ञानस्य या परा बुद्ध्या विशुद्धया युक्तो धृत्यात्मानं नियम्य च शब्दादीन् विषयान् त्यक्त्वा रागद्वेषौ व्युदस्य च विविक्तसेवी लघ्वाशी यत वाक्कायमानसः ध्यानयोगपरो नित्यं वैराग्यं समुपाश्रितः अहङ्कारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं परिग्रहम् विमुच्य निर्ममः शान्तो ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते ब्रह्मभूतः प्रसन्नात्मा न शोचति न काङ्क्षति समः सर्वेषु भूतेषु मद्भक्तिं लभते पराम् भक्त्या मामभिजानाति यावान्यश्चास्मि तत्त्वतः ततो मां तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशते तदनन्तरम् ॐ तत्सत्.
Jai Gurudev, nothing is coming, Brahmaraji. Not able to hear.
Yeah, I've not started sharing. Just give me a second, okay? So we stopped here yesterday. Just going to read this one more time. Why should we have two words, jnana and jnananishta? And before that, the reason why Atma is Prasiddha was very nicely explained by Swamiji, right? So without Atma Chaitanya, no desire is possible. Therefore, Atma is Prasiddha. That is, whatever we do, it is for our own sake. It is for Atma's sake. It is not for anything else. Even it is not for happiness. So if this consciousness, which is the nature of the Atma, is not evident, what will happen? Then one would have a desire to know it, like any other object to be known. If the consciousness that is the Atma is something that is not known, then it becomes an object which you have got to know and requires a means of knowledge in order to be known. Just as a pot, for instance, becomes an object of inquiry, similarly, consciousness would become an object to inquire into and how. Is there such a thing? No, there is no such thing. If there is someone to whom consciousness is unknown, that person has to be inert. And if he is inert, how is he going to have a desire to know anything? Something inert cannot even wish to know a pot, let alone consciousness. Consciousness is the nature of the self. No one has any doubt about it. No one wonders if he or she is a conscious being or not. Even if one thinks over the matter and concludes that one is not conscious, only a conscious being can make that conclusion. Something inert is not going to conclude that it is inert or conscious. Therefore, since it is not inquired into, it is evident that consciousness is self evident. This is clear, isn't it? This is why consciousness is self evident. So, in case that someone to whom consciousness is not known is inert, then anything which is inert cannot even think, cannot even have a desire. And therefore, it, it derives that the consciousness, the conscious being, that consciousness itself is self evident. There are some people who believe that there is a super consciousness beyond the body mind sense complex and are searching for it in all seriousness. They will be searching for eternity and still missing it because the one who is searching is the only consciousness there is. Therefore, because consciousness does not become the object of a desire to know, it is totally self evident. There is no living being to whom consciousness is not present. Even a mosquito is aware of itself. It may not know the word mosquito, but it is able to recognize other mosquitoes, even though there are so many insects of the size of a mosquito. To that extent, it is self conscious. Thus, since consciousness is always present, so also Shankara says, is the knower. Is the in the one who wants to know something, consciousness is already present as a knower. Then, in order to know a given object, he employs an appropriate means of knowledge. Suppose you have to see a form or a color. What do? You do not close your eyes and try to see the color through your ear. You always open your eyes because you know that the eyes are the appropriate means of knowledge here. Who is the person that handles the means of knowledge? It is the knower, jnata, in whom consciousness is present. Thus, the knower also is not unknown, but present, prasiddha. Nobody finds it necessary to use a means of knowledge to discover the knower because it is never absent when there is something to be known. Consciousness assumes the status of a knower with reference to an object to be known and therefore becomes, as it were, the knower, jnata. So, whenever there is something to be known, there has to be a knower, and that consciousness takes the form of the knower. In conclusion, Shankara says that because of all this, no effort is to be made in self knowledge. In fact, in any knowledge, there is no effort. If the object of knowledge and the means of knowledge are there, knowledge takes place effortlessly. At least, operation of a means of knowledge, pramana vyapara, is required in empirical knowledge. But in the knowledge that one is conscious, no operation of a pramana is required. But the Shastra says that Atma is Brahman, which is nothing but consciousness. To know that, all that is necessary is to remove from Atma the notion of what is not the self, says Shankara. Because Atma is Brahman, if it is taken for anything other than that, Naturally, Atma becomes not Brahman, a Brahma. Therefore, all that has to be done is the removal of the notion of I in the Anatma. All the inquiry we do is only to negate the Atma Buddhi, I notion in the Anatma. Any analysis that we do to remove doubts, etc., is only for that. We are not creating Brahman or embellishing the consciousness that is Atma to make it become Brahman. Atma is Brahman, which is limitless, being as it is pure consciousness. Thus, knowledge in the form of negation or dropping is required. Which is more difficult in this world, lifting or dropping? Lifting is difficult. Dropping is no problem at all. All you have to do is let go. Now tell me, is samsara good for you or bad for you? If it is good for you, dropping it is going to be difficult. If it is like a hot potato, how difficult is it? What effort is required? Do you have to consult somebody? If samsara is fraught with pain, dukkha, what should you do? Drop it. Where is the difficulty? Like a hot potato, we have to drop all the notions we have about Atma. That is why Shankara says, finally, that Jnana Nishta is the most easy thing to accomplish. Susampadya. There is no difficulty there at all. Why should we have two words, Jnana and Jnana Nishta? At the same time, the mind seems to want to hold on to things which are clearly not good for one at all. There is always someone who, even though holding a hot potato, keeps holding on to it, all the while complaining. It is so hot, it is so hot. What shall I do? He says he wants to drop it, but it does not fall from his hand. The mind also seems to be like this. We do not know whether we are holding on to things or they are holding on to us. It is something like a person who was sitting on the bank of the river, which was full and deep. He wanted to reach the opposite shore, but did not know how to swim. Then he saw something that looked like a log of wood, which came floating down the river. Slipping into the water, grabbed hold of it. He was so happy, thinking that he would be able to reach the other shore now. Then he found that his log of wood had a pair of hands and was grabbing him. He thought he had grabbed the log of wood, but the log of wood was grabbing him. He had grabbed onto a bear. What he thought was a solution to his difficulty turned out to be even more of a problem. Now he wants to get out of its grip, but it is not that easy. He can neither let go of it nor get along with it. This is what we call samsara. Much like a habit or an addiction is like that. We cannot let go of it, neither can we do without it. We keep holding on to our notions, even though,
No, here this example means he should not try to cross the river.
he wants to cross the river, but he's
But we don't know. He might have crossed. It just happened. No, he's not purposely doing it.
no, this is only an example. The example is about samsara. Holding on to is, are you holding on to samsara or is samsara holding on to you?
Holding on to. Yes, yes, I understood it. But Not
So
so. Mm.
the example is for us to understand only the aspect of samsara, that holding on to, letting go, holding on to. So in that example, he's just given the example of crossing the river. I don't know what your question or
Means um, we were looking at the solution, but we went into the fall problem. That's what is
correct.
samsara. Mm.
Oh, this is about the log of wood. He thought
Yeah,
if a log of wood, it will help him, give him a solution to cross over the river,
solution. Yes, yes.
right? But it he discovered that it was actually a bear holding on to him.
Mm.
Didi, here samsara is like ocean which we are crossing, and log of wood is like our cravings and attachments. I think so. If we hold on to them, it's of no use. Like they come to us. They hold us instead. Is it so?
I think so. You are correct in that. Yeah.
Here, the samsara was given, it was likened to a hot potato, right? We keep on holding on to it, all the while complaining. It is so hot, it is so hot, what shall I do? He says he wants to drop it, but it does not fall from his hand. The mind also seems to be like this. We do not know whether we are holding on to things or they are holding on to us. So, this, when you extrapolate this to samsara, we do not know whether we are holding on to samsara or samsara is holding on to us. Like the example of the log of wood and the bear holding on to the person. In my opinion, the ocean there, the river is only an example there. It is not likened to samsara. That samsara aspect is likened to this log of wood. That is my understanding. Because if you follow the train of thought, he says, why don't you want to drop samsara? Because what is more difficult in this world, lifting or dropping? That was the whole central idea. It was not about crossing. Of course, in so many other analogies, samsara is given ocean of samsara, but that is not what is the central idea here. The idea is whether samsara is good or bad for you. If it is like a hot potato, which it is, then what effort is required in dropping it? But we seem to find it difficult to drop.
We are so attached to the hot potato. We
Can
don't
you
want
read?
to drop it. We don't
Can
want
you,
to drop it.
Yeah.
Brahmaraji, can you read again that example? Log and river and ocean all.
Yeah. So there is always someone, at the same time, the mind seems to want to hold on to things which are clearly not good for one at all. There is always someone who, even though holding a hot potato, keeps holding on to it, all the while complaining. It is so hot, it is so hot. What shall I do? He says he wants to drop it, but it does not fall from his hand. The mind also seems to be like this. We do not know whether we are holding on to things or they are holding on to us. It is something like a person who was sitting on the bank of a river which was full and deep. He wanted to reach the opposite shore but did not know how to swim. Then he saw something that looked like a log of wood which came floating down the river. Slipping into the river, grabbed hold of it. He was so happy thinking that he would be able to reach the other shore now. Then he found that his log of wood had a pair of hands and was grabbing him. He thought he had grabbed the log of wood, but the log of wood was grabbing him. He had grabbed onto a bear. What he thought was a solution to his difficulty turned out to be even more of a problem. Now, he wants to get out of its grip, but it is not that easy. So, this grip here is the grip of samsara. So, that bear is likened to samsara here. He can neither let go of it nor get along with it. This is what we call samsara. He gets into samsara thinking it could be a solution for his problem, but then it actually becomes a even greater problem because he cannot let go of it. It does not let go of him both ways. Just a second. Yeah, anyone wants to share? We keep holding on to our notions, even though the nature of the self is self evident, and that is the nature of Brahman. All the words that indicate the nature of Brahman or the self, like Satya, Jnana, Ananta, or Shuddha, pure, Buddha, enlightened, Mukta, free, etc., are only to eliminate the I notion that we have in what is not I, Anatma. These words that are the Lakshana of Brahman are meant to negate the varieties of notions we have about the Atma based upon the Anatma. The properties of one have been superimposed upon the other, and that has to be sorted out.
Here the person means he wants to not hold the things, but he doesn't know how to drop also. So here when we know the samsara is binding us, we are not able to leave it. So what is the solution? How the thoughts will come? How the means only Satya, Jnana, Ananta, Buddha, this Shabda or the five Mahavakyas will take us to that uh, on that path. Is it so?
Yeah, the notion that I am the Anatma has to go. And for that,
Correct.
these words that indicate the nature of Brahman,
Hmm.
they are only indicating.
Hmm.
Actually, Brahman is without any attributes. Correct.
Hmm.
So these words that are the Lakshana of Brahman are
Hmm.
meant to negate the varieties of notions that we have about the Atma. See
Hmm.
what we think I am Alpajnaha,
Body.
I
Hmm.
am
Hmm. Hmm.
Kinchignaha, I am
Kinship.
suffering,
Hmm.
whereas Ananda is joy, bliss, happiness. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahm, Shuddha, Buddha. So all those words are indicative of the nature of Atma so that they will help eliminate the wrong notion that we have that this I is Anatma. The wrong notion we have is what? I am the body, I am the mind, I am the senses, I am
Hmm.
the intellect, ego. So the these notions have to be removed because these are superimposed upon the Atma.
But the thing is that when he wants to drop, he is not able to drop because of its mind. So, so it is not a catch 22 till the mind is not clear or antakaran is not shuddha, he will not go that side. Means he will not meditate on these words or lakshan, whatever the lakshanas of Brahman is. In the
No, in
previous, in the
in one of the
previous paragraph, can you read that sentence? The mind is like that. That sentence. He wants to drop it, but mine also seems to be like this. Okay. Okay.
The
Then
mind seems to want to hold on to things which are clearly not good for one at all.
no, in one of the talks, Guruji has told that this dukkha, they start enjoying the dukkha also. They are in so much this one attached to that. They think they start enjoying the dukkha also. If it doesn't come, they don't feel happy or something like that. In one of the talk, he mentioned it. I don't know, in Ashtavakra or like that. He starts enjoying the dukkha also. He thinks that is the sukha. So he doesn't want to drop that.
In all of this, whether it is
next
the
paragraph
knowledge,
of thing, I think
yeah.
it explains this how.
In fact, I think someone had shared in the group about how to come out of the karmic cycle. That was a beautiful answer. So I think that will give us. So again, Gurudev brings up the aspect of knowledge, wisdom. So when you have that, then why do you want to come out of karmic cycle? Why do you want to come out of samsara? As long as you have the understanding. See, all of this is coming back to the same bottom line that it is knowledge that relieves us. Knowledge of what Atma is, knowledge of what Anatma is. If I remove the knowledge of the wrong notion that I am Anatma, then what remains is you, the Atma. So, in a way, yes, we need to get out of samsara, drop samsara. Dropping by how? Dropping with knowledge. It's not just um, uh, dropping it like we literally drop a hot potato. No, it is dropping with understanding, with viveka, vichara. That is the dropping. So let me just continue. Even though the whole pursuit is in the form of dropping, and we do have the capacity to drop, there seem to be some difficulties. People tell me all the time that they understand this teaching very well, but still they are in pain. Not physical pain, but mental pain. This is only because of an incapacity to drop things. Why should they not drop something that is hurting them? They want to drop it. Nobody wants to have pain. What causes mental pain after all? It is nothing but a particular form of thinking. We do not even need to drop that thinking. We just need to understand that this thinking is just thinking. Then you will find that you have nothing to do with pain. Just let the thinking be. You need not bother about it. So ultimately, it boils down to this. It boils down to understanding that this is only a form of thinking.
Everything is mind's game.
Yeah. Removal of the obstructions to gaining the result of jnana is jnana nishta. So this is the definition of jnana nishta. What is it? Removal of the obstructions to gaining the result of jnana. If, in spite of understanding this, a person is not able to drop his notions, we have to say that the knowledge has some obstruction. The psychology of the human mind has its own logic, its own truth, and therefore we have what we call a commitment to the pursuit of knowledge, jnana nishtha. Knowledge, jnana is good enough. This was the reason why we have two words, jnana and jnana nishtha. That is what is being explained. The conscious Atma is self-evident, and that consciousness Atma is myself, which is Brahman. It is so simple, but at the same time, there seems to be some difficulty. Therefore, the word Nishta is added to Jnana. It is all based on the experience of seekers. It is against all logic, really speaking, because when Atma is consciousness and that Atma is Brahman, all you require is discrimination between Atma and Anatma. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. The Shastra is the means of knowledge, Pramana, which makes it very clear that the self, Atma, is Brahman. It is eternal, Nitya. It is pure, Shuddha. It is limitless, Ananta. It is unattached to anything, Asanga. It is free, Mukta. It is the basis for everything, the Adhishtana, the truth of everything, the Satya, without which there is nothing. All that is here is Brahman, and you are that Brahman. Where is the problem? Every word is clear. Still, even though a seeker has a proper teacher and has listened to the Shastra from that teacher, he or she goes on complaining. What does it mean? Seekers have their own experience, which defies all logic. So if only jnana is what is required, then this is what the Shastra is saying. Shastra says Atma is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, and you are that Brahman. But there still seems to be a problem. These are words and you understand the meaning, but we still go on having our own uh, issues. We have complaints, we have misery, we are still going through joys, sorrows. So, seekers have their own experience which defies all logic. The role of Shravana in removing the obstructions. Shankara recognizes this, the Shastra recognizes this, and all the teachers, Acharyas, recognize this. Therefore, the Shastra says, the self, my dear, is to be seen, inquired into, analyzed, and contemplated upon. Atma va are drashtavyaha, shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, nididhyasitavyaha. The first two, seen and listened about, should be enough. The self is always present, prasiddha, but as a doer and an enjoyer, in a word, as a samsari. It has to be known as Brahman, which is not subject to any problem, for which we should give up the I notion in what is not I, Anatma, and remove all doubts about it through listening to the Shastra. The root shru, to hear or listen, has the meaning of inquiring, vicharane. The Shastra says that Atma, which is Brahman, is not a samsari. That Shastra is in the form of words and therefore has to be analyzed and understood by you. Only two instructions should be enough here. First, Atma is to be seen, drashtavyaha. That is to draw our attention to both our confusion and the solution. We have a confusion about the Atma, thinking that it is a samsari, and that is why we have to know the Atma. That is the solution. What should we do to know the Atma? Listen to, inquire into the Shastra, Shrotavyaha. That is enough. In listening to the Shastra, it is revealed that Atma is Brahman, and the operation of the Pramana to know Atma is complete. It is like analyzing a transparent object to see if it is a glass bead or a crystal. All you have to do is go close to it and check the properties of it, its weight, etc. That is enough. It is over. Similarly, to know Atma, you need to analyze it properly, and for that, you require a mirror. An ordinary mirror will only reveal that you are the body, etc. You already know that. Such a mirror can perhaps give me a little more detail, but to know what I am, if there is a confusion, I require another type of mirror which will reveal the real me. That mirror is in the form of words and is called Vedanta. When I look into the word mirror that is called Vedanta, what do I see? Sat Chit Ananda Atma. Through the word mirror, I recognize that Atma is Param Brahma. Then what should I do? Shastra reveals that Atma is Brahman. No effort is required for that knowledge to take place. So the word mirror is Vedanta. So what do I see when I look at Vedanta, the mirror of the words? I recognize that Atma is Param Brahma. Right? So then what should I do? Shastra reveals that Atma is Brahman. No effort is required for that knowledge to take place. So in what the idea that is being given, proposed, is that only Shravana is required. Why do we need anything else? Now, the role of Manana in removing the obstructions. In spite of that, even though there is no effort to be made, still the Shastra recognizes that people do not always come away knowing the Atma just because they listen to the Shastra. Sometimes it only creates more doubt. A person may have had some doubts about himself before listening to the Shastra, but listening seems to have created new doubts because he's turning his attention towards himself. Previously, his problem was whether somebody loved him or not. It was in the samsara, his problems. Now he wonders, do I love myself? All because of the Vedanta Shastra. This is very natural because Vedanta turns everything towards yourself. Vedanta says you are nothing but love. There is no reason for you not to love yourself. But this fellow says, I do not love myself. I am only 5 feet 6 inches and I do not like it at all. What does it mean? This fellow has a confusion about Atma. He thinks it is the body. If the body is Atma, how can you love yourself? And if the mind is Atma, of course you cannot love yourself. And again, there are others who will protest that you cannot be Ishvara since you are not omniscient, etc. Initially, you had your own doubts about yourself, and there were ordinary people to confirm them. But now you find that there are philosophers, religious people, and even huge organizations with millions of followers confirming your misgivings about yourself. When all these people are protesting against your being Brahman, There is a pressure to conform. At least in listening to Vedanta, I thought I am not that bad. When the rishis say that I'm wonderful, definitely I cannot dismiss their desirable vision and conclude the opposite, that I am not wonderful. But when all these people gang up against me, perhaps it is better to be one of the gang. Otherwise, I am one against so many. I am as lonely as non dual Brahman. What Vedanta says is so desirable because it tells me I am Ananda, I am everything. And there seems to be some logic to it. And also the confirmation of my own experience. No matter how depressed I may have been, there has always been moments when I laughed with abandon at a joke. What does it mean? I have to do an analysis, Manana, and compare what all these various schools of thought that challenge the vision of Vedanta say to my own insight about myself and determine which is true in the light of what the Shastra says. I have to determine if there is any truth in what they say or not. It all has to be thoroughly analyzed. Therefore, the Shastra says, Atma va are mantavyaha. So, listening to the Vedanta Shastra Shravana tells you that Atma is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That itself should be sufficient. But the reason why Manana is required is because there are so many schools of thought. There are even philosophers that tell you that you cannot be Ishvara, that non dual aspect, the Dvaitins. So then you have doubts. Then you again come back with saying, oh, can I be that? So therefore, Atma has to, Atma va are mantavya. You have to thoroughly analyze what the Vedanta says. Sometimes you will hear people say that they have a conviction that Atma is Brahman. Those who have great conviction in the Atma Jnana are all victims of wrong thinking. I can have a conviction that I will go to hell. That is okay. But Atma Jnana has nothing to do with conviction. Conviction is mental. It is some kind of a thinking, some kind of hope, etc., which moves you to commit yourself to something. But this is not a matter for conviction. I know what I am. Then what? I have no problem. I will read this paragraph again. Sometimes you will hear people who say that they have a conviction that Atma is Brahman. Those who have great conviction in the Atma Jnana are all victims of wrong thinking. So, this is something that we have to uh, pay attention to. I can have a conviction that I will go to hell. That is okay. But Atma Jnana has nothing to do with conviction. Conviction is mental, it is some kind of a thinking, some kind of hope, etc., which moves you to commit yourself to something. But this is not a matter for conviction. I know what I am. Then what? I have no problem. So, in order to know what I am, that requires not just manana, it requires also nididhyasana. After years, the role of nididhyasana in removing the obstructions. After years of studying Vedanta, we can see people saying I know I am Brahman, but the but seems to remain. The first but is, am I Brahman? Then one says yes, the Shastra says so, and it is made clear by inquiring into the Shastra, by Shravana. And now the second but comes up. But am I really what the Shastra says? That doubt is also removed by analyzing what the Shastra says by Manana. After Manana, it looks as though one has to admit that I do know that I am Brahman. But the but seems to continue. Then what is the problem? Then the third but comes up, and one says, Swamiji, I know that I am Brahman, but I do not behave like I am Brahman. I still have fear, worry, etc. If I am Brahman, how can I get worried? This is because the knowledge that I am the limitless Brahman, full and complete, is not yet completely owned up. This owning up requires sitting down quietly and owning up this fact about myself and removing all subtle obstructions that prevent this owning up. This is called Nididhyasana. So beautifully explained, right? So removing all the buts, all those subtle obstructions, and owning up that I am Brahman. The obstructions are always due to old habit. I have the age old habit of considering myself to be small and insignificant. Worry comes out of the small I, not out of the big I. In fact, worry, concern, anxiety, panic are all born of the child in us. It is not even the small person, it is the smallest, the child. Even though the body has grown to become an adult, a child remains buried under the adulthood. When you reach 40, it begins to probe its way to the surface. It can wait for 40 years, not more than that. After that, it cannot remain hidden any longer. Thus, there seems to be a condition in which your experience is opposed to what you know, a viparita bhavana. It is purely due to childhood. That is why we can call it habit or kashaya. We can call it anything as long as we understand that it is all from the past. It has nothing to do with the present. Events of the present only serve as a trigger to awaken unresolved issues from the past. The anger that comes for the small thing that happened today is not appropriate to what happened today. Even an ordinary person who does not know anything about Brahman can see that the anger that the situation evokes is too great for the situation. It is something like hanging a person for a traffic violation. The reaction is not appropriate at all. Therefore, we understand there is some kashaya or whatever you want to call it from the past. By the past, we do not mean past karma. That can only create situations wherein you can feel happy or unhappy, depending on your own disposition. It can give you a disease or some external mishap, etc., which are not conducive for comfortable living. But it cannot give sorrow, dukkha, that comes purely from yourself. And the self is Brahman, in which any situation is simply absorbed. Where is the question of a reaction of anger, etc.? The one who is free and full, who knows he is Brahman, cannot be angry. I will read further and maybe, if required, repeat the thing. Once two Swamis that I know, one was perhaps in his 40s, the other in his 50s, were discussing some verses in Viveka Chudamani, where there is a description of a jnani, a wise person. The description of the wise person by the Shastra is meant to be a prashamsa, praise, and not to make any judgment about who is a jnani. The description is purely meant to inspire a person so that he would love to become a jnani and therefore pursue knowledge. And sometimes in the description of a jnani, we understand the nature of the knowledge itself, and so it becomes a means to reveal the vastu. One of these Swamis, the older one, was explaining the meaning of a verse describing a jnani. The younger one, who was a little better educated, said, Swamiji, how can we discuss what a jnani is unless we are jnanis ourselves? At this question, the older Swami got very angry. How can you say that I am not a jnani? He said, and he walked out. Later, he left that place for good. This kind of behavior is all due to childhood problems. The issue here is not what makes a jnani or who is a jnani, but what is this knowledge, jnana? Atma is Brahman. Either you know this fact or you do not know it. Nobody can say anything about this. Even to say I am a jnani is a silly thing. The one who knows that he is Brahman will not say he is a jnani. He will say, I am Brahman. Whether one is a jnani or an ajnani is not a matter for discussion. It is a matter of understanding what the knowledge is, a process of learning and getting clarity. It is silly to say somebody is enlightened and somebody is not enlightened. We are not here to make a judgment about anybody or about ourselves. I neither can say anything about myself nor about others. Free from judgment, I simply enjoy the process of knowing. Where is the question of judgment? It is not that on a particular day I got up enlightened. Atma is always present. Nitya Siddha. It is not an event. Shastra says that you are always enlightened. Nitya Buddha. Always liberated. Nitya Mukta. So where is the problem? How can anyone say that he got enlightened at a particular time or on a particular day? It is not that suddenly everything becomes clear. You are always enlightened. On superficial analysis, the situation in which the elder Swami got angry looks justifiable because, according to him, he is a jnani and somebody insinuated that he is not. But on the other hand, if one looks carefully, it is not justifiable at all. That is why the older Swami said, that is why the other Swami said, if he is a jnani, he is fulfilled, aptakami, and there should be no anger. For an aptakami, situations that make others angry are like one drop of water dropping into the ocean. For an aptakami, situations that make others angry are like one drop of water dropping into the ocean. What will happen? Nothing. It just gets lost. Similarly, if you are limitless, Akhandam Brahma, what is it that he is going to respond to? If at all there is response, it will be laughter. Some joy, some empathy, compassion, love can be there. Where is anger? There is no possibility at all. Perhaps the Swami who got angry did have the understanding of the Shastra. In spite of understanding, if there is still inappropriate anger, inappropriate hatred, and inappropriate sorrow, we call that viparita bhavana. For that, we have contemplation on what we know, nididhyasana. Thus, the Shastra says, Atma va are nididhyasitavyaha. The Atma has to be contemplated upon. And all the viparita bhavanas have to be removed by this contemplation. With that in view, the Shastra adds one more word, jnana nishtha. Just give me a second. Maybe we can share. If required, I will repeat. People can share. I'll just be back in a minute.
Which is this verse? 48 or anybody?
This is
If you go
50
back,
verse 50 we are reading. Yeah.
50, yeah.
so let me just complete this one. This jnana nishta is a knowledge which has no obstruction whatsoever. Why is such a word necessary? Because of the experience of the seekers, mumukshus. It is not logical at all, but that is how it is. Without taking this into account, there are some teachers who will just advise a seeker who has some problem to dismiss it all as mithya. If he says he feels bad, the teacher will ask him, what is bad? Your body, your mind, Atma? There is no badness. It is all mithya. Forget it. This is all correct, but it is a thing to be understood, not passed off as advice in a cryptic sentence. Neither the person who uses that sentence knows anything, nor does the one who receives the sentence gains anything. They just have some words. That this is mithya or maya is a thing to be discovered. It is not a matter for advice. If it is handled by advice, the problem remains a problem. The Shastra recognizes the problem and shows us how to address it through a life of prayer, proper attitude, and finally by what is called nididhyasana, contemplation. It is this contemplation that removes the notion we have of ourselves that is opposed to what we know, viparita bhavana, and leads to jnana nishta. So beautiful. Introduction to the next verses. So from now on, we are going to see some verses which talk about what we have to do to gain this jnana nishta. It is a summary of that part of the 6th chapter that talks about meditation, put here in a different form in a few words. Okay, so I'm just going back. The last few paragraphs are so beautiful in the sense they explain what jnana is, what jnana nishta is, and why there are two different words. And to get this jnana nishta, how Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and what Shravana gives us, what Manana helps, how Manana helps, and how Nididhyasana is important. It is all about processing it. It's all about understanding it. It is not just about having some words and concepts. And it's not a matter of advice or getting some advice from the teacher saying it's all mithya. We have to internalize it because of the viparita bhavana, because of our childhood, because of all our past lives and experiences. We have certain um, notions about ourselves. Those are all obstructions that come up.
Vasanas, you can say. They are vasanas of the past.
Brahmaraji, can you tell in 3 lines about the Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana? Because of the Shravana, what happens? Means and why we go to the next level of Manana and then the next level of Nididhyasana. How it
Yeah.
is removing the obstructions
Why do we need Shastra in the first place?
to
Because
know.
to
Hmm.
know what I am not,
Yes,
to know the
Atma and Anatma difference.
yeah, anatma viveka. In
Hmm.
order to get that, we require the means of knowledge, pramana. And that means of knowledge is Vedanta. Like we have a mirror, the example given was a mirror. A physical mirror is where you look at your body, but you know that you're not the body. So the Vedanta is a mirror of words, which tells you Atma, you are Atma, Atma is Brahman, and Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam Brahma, Buddha, Nitya Shuddha.
Hmm.
So that is a mirror of words. That is what Shravana gives us, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So is Shravana alone enough? If you would have if
Doubt,
just
doubt arises there. So
I know.
next.
Now, therefore, now there are in the world there are people who have different ideologies than what Vedanta says. Like all the Dvaitins, the Vishishta Dvaitins, Vishishta Advaita, no. They say you cannot be Ishvara. Like the Pratipaksha Bhavan, the Purva Pakshi that Shankara keeps bringing up back and forth, right? So you are exposed to all their inputs as well. So you still have those doubts. The reason for the manana is because to remove those obstructions. A person may have had some doubts about himself before listening to the Shastra, but listening seems to have created new doubts. Previously, his problem was whether somebody loved him or not. Now he wonders, do I love myself? Because now Vedanta is turning him towards himself. Now he's looking at himself. When he's looking within, actually there are more problems that start off because he starts having doubts, a lot of doubts. Right? So manana is required for clearing up these doubts. At least in listening to Vedanta, I thought I'm not that bad. But when the rishi says I'm wonderful, I cannot dismiss their desirable vision and conclude the opposite, that I'm not. But when all these people gang up against me, who are all these people? These people who are apart from the Advaitins, all the Dvaitins and whoever, they say, because they're also religious leaders. I mean, they have their own followers. So you are in a doubt, you're in a confused state. So it says better to be one of the gang. Otherwise, I'm one against many. I am lonely as non-dual Brahman. So holding on to Advaita, I become very lonely. So therefore, what Vedanta says is so desirable because it tells me I'm Ananda, I'm everything. There seems to be some logic and also the confirmation of my experience. This requires an analysis. See, the reason why Manana is all about analyzing, isn't it? So, no matter how depressed I may have been, there are always been moments when I laughed with abandon at a joke. What does it mean? I have to do an analysis, Manana, and compare what all these various schools of thought that challenge the vision of Vedanta say to my own insight about myself and determine which is true in the light of what the Shastra says. I have to determine if there is any truth in what they say or not. It all has to be thoroughly analyzed. So, listening is Shravana, analyzing and understanding is Manana. And then, why is Nididhyasana important?
Practicing it.
Remove all the obstructions.
Hmm.
Because to remove all the buts, after years of studying Vedanta, someone says, yes, I know I am Brahman, but I still I don't behave like Brahman. I don't behave like I am, Ananda, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. I don't behave like that. So there are some things holding us back. What are they? They are the Viparita Bhavanas. The Shastra says, see, there are 3 buts that happen. The first but is, am I Brahman? Is the first but. Then you seem to understand, okay, yes, the Shastra says so, and it is made clear by inquiring into Shastra, by Shravana. Now, the second but comes up. But am I really what the Shastra says? That doubt is also removed by analyzing what the Shastra says by Manana. After Manana, it looks as though one has to admit that I do know that I am Brahman, but the but seems to continue. Then what is the problem? Then the third but comes up, and one says, Swamiji, I know that I am Brahman, but I do not behave like I am Brahman. I still have fear, worry, etc. If I am Brahman, how can I get worried? This is because the knowledge that I am the limitless Brahman, full and complete, is not yet completely owned up. And what does this owning require? It requires sitting down quietly and owning up this fact about myself and removing all subtle obstructions that prevent this owning up.
In Art of Living, we have means 3 types of doubts. First is on Shastra, means first on self, then Shastra, and what is the third? Can you remember that?
About the Guru.
Guru.
Well, Jay
So here
Guru,
Shastra.
doubts are actually doubting the master, doubting the technique.
Technique.
It's like that asking that question, no? Jnani. That boy asks that guru here in the example.
Anger comes up. Yeah, he,
that, that is upset. So, doubting the guru.
No, but that Guru was not a true Jnani. He was not a Jnana.
That's what.
That's why he got angry.
No, but many people still doubt many times. Even Guru is Jnani also. The vasanas held by the seeker is so much that it creates doubt. But unless we have that Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa.
but these obstructions are always due to old habits, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what. Therefore, Guru has given us a tool, that is sadhana. It clears your mind. Clarity of mind, we get it. That is what Antakarana Shuddhi. It clears your heart, purity of heart. And then whatever work you want to do, you sincerely do it. Sincerity in the work. That is Karma Yoga. So all this is playing. So by the sadhana, we get all that clarity, purity, and that sincerity. And that is what is Nididhyasa. You do daily that, listen to the knowledge, analyze it, imbibe it. That is what Nididhyasa. That abhyasa you should do daily so that it becomes your nidhi, your wealth. You imbibe it. Then that gives you the nishtha, jnana. You have the jnana, but that nishtha has to be the jnana nishtha by nididhyasa. Manana and nididhyasa. You have to imbibe. Unless you imbibe, you you will have that but. That but has to be removed. By daily practicing, Guru has given everything for you. You have to just follow him. Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
My battery is running low. Just continue talking. Anyone wants to share, please continue.
Can someone explain that Kashaya part?
Yeah, I was also reading that again. Kashaya is the habit, the childhood, you can say, the experience which we had in the childhood. It is pure, it is that habit which leads to Kashaya in Hindi. It is not, it is a negative feeling or aspect. So it leads to pain, Kashaya. Any
It's like
habit which is
Tana.
opposed, yeah, Viparit Bhavna, yeah, that is what. So sometimes, if you there's a line written, no, events of the present only serve as a trigger to awaken the unresolved issues from the past. And the anger that comes for the small thing that happened today is not appropriate to what happened today. Like you must be angry with because of something else, but a small event happened, which in which way you reacted, it wasn't appropriate for it. It was the reaction of the past happening or past something in the past, that reaction of that related to that past is happening now. Just like example was given of a person violating a traffic rule, and he was given a punishment of hanging. So the malice, that anger was related to some past incident, but it got triggered with some small trivial incident happening now, because that resentment and that anger was hidden beneath, which came out now.
In the form of that hanging
Yeah,
punishment.
the reaction is more for
Harsh.
a small, yeah,
Was not needed
yeah,
that.
yeah. Some this I was also relating, like when I wasn't in this Shastra knowledge when the children were very small. So something happened in the house, but it came out on the children. This is a very common, because you express where there the other person is weak. So it is again that psychology of a human being, that whether target is soft, you pour out more. So the anger must be because of something else, but that it was triggered by his some small activity which did not meant to be for such a reaction, that the reaction which we gave. So I was just remembering how like we could say how
The anger,
inappropriate
the anger
how
always.
inappropriate we were in our behavior at that time when we that that that
The
forbearance
situation
that,
will work as a catalyst, and the previous whatever the resentment was there, that put the impact on the present moment, and the harsh punishment or harsh things came out
yeah.
like this. It is.
No, ego is crystallized. No, this anger is crystallized because of the ego. Always.
They are all always related, ego,
Yeah,
anger.
ego. No,
Yeah,
no. When your ego is hurt, you just don't know. You just react it. Always.
Yeah. Jai Gurudev, anger is, crystal sadness.
Yes.
Here, what was said was this Kashaya, the Viprita Bhavana, is it is like an old habit. When he talks of dukkha, see, it's not karma. By the past, we do not mean past karma. And he's very clearly mentioned the difference. Karma can only create situations wherein you can feel happy or unhappy, depending on your own disposition. It can give you a disease or some external mishap. This is what karma can do, which are not conducive for comfortable living. But it cannot give sorrow, dukkha. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional, is what Gurudev says. So that suffering, whether I want to suffer the karma that I'm going through or not, depends on my disposition. There are two people, one who is suffering the pain throughout, whereas the other person who has this self-knowledge, he chooses not to suffer. And he just goes through that experience without suffering. So that karma cannot give you dukkha or sorrow. That comes purely from yourself. And the self is Brahman, in which any situation is simply absorbed. If you remember yesterday, day before, we read about if all that we do is for the sake of Atma. And if that is the case, with this knowledge, you cannot be angry, you cannot be sad, you cannot be elated, you cannot be depressed. So the one who is free and full, who knows he is Brahman, cannot be angry. Na dveshti, na abhinandati, na dveshti. And that is why this example in this two, where the two swamis and the older swami gets angry, means he is still work in progress. He still has not completely realized that he is the self. He only has words. He has listened. He has studied the Shastra. He has done probably some manana, but he has not done enough nididhyasana. That childhood habit that habit is still lingering up there for him. Therefore, he expressed his anger. If he was completely established, if he was a jnana nishta, he would not have even gotten angry. All he will have is compassion. And which is why a person who's enlightened does not say, oh, I became enlightened at such a such time. It is always there. You are always enlightened. So we'll stop here today. It's actually very beautiful. Maybe it's a good idea to repeat all this train of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana again tomorrow. So we are all clear about the role that each one of them has. And then we'll go forward to the next one. The next verses are all about how to develop this, how to gain this jnana nishta. So we are on shloka number 50 right now. See, and this one also is important, this paragraph. Why jnana nishta is a knowledge which has no obstruction whatsoever, this jnana nishta. Why is such a word necessary? Because of the experience of the seekers, mumukshus. It is not logical at all, but that is how it is. Without taking this into account, there are some teachers who will just advise a seeker who has some problem to dismiss it all as mithya. He says if he feels bad, the teacher will ask him, what is bad? Your body, your mind, Atma? There is no badness, it is all mithya, forget it. This is all correct, but it is a thing to be understood, not passed off as advice in a cryptic sentence. Important for us to understand this. We'll take this up tomorrow, okay? Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
निरुपमनित्यनिरंशकेऽप्य खण्डे मयि चिति सर्वविकल्पनादिशून्ये घटयति जगदीश जीवभेदम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया श्रुतिशतनिगमान्तशोधकानपि अहह धनादिनिदर्शनेन सद्यः कलुषयति चतुष्पदाद्यभिन्ना न घटितघटना पडीयसी माया सुखचिदखण्डविबोधमद्वितीयम् वियदनलादिविनिर्मित्ते नियोज्य भ्रमयति भवसागरे नितान्तम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया अपगतगुणवर्णजातिभेदे सुखचितिविप्रविडाद्यहं कृतिं च स्फुटयति सुतदारकेहमोहम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया विधिहरिहरविभेदमप्यखण्डे बत विरचय्य बुधानपि प्रकामम् भ्रमयति हरिहरविभेदभावान् घटितघटना पटीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया